Lost Generation. World War I brought much pain to the families of those involved in this disastrous war. Many great soldiers left their homes, went to war, and never returned. Others were severely wounded or retained severe psychological damages because of this war. This World War I generation went to war expecting to come home to find their country in the same state in which they left it. This was not realistically something to expect, for the nation was in the middle of a great economic advancement. Things were changing drastically, and the old crippled soldiers could not keep up with the new hustle and bustle of this new age. Their inability to function in their modern society gave them the label of the lost generation, which eventually became a writing style of the time, reflecting the lost state that the soldiers were living in.
Lost Generation, the new writing style, became very popular in the new culture of the Roaring Twenties. The term came from a book by Ernest Hemingway called A Movable Feast, in which, to retired World War I soldiers, he says, "You are all lost." In France, where many expatriates settled, this generation was referred to as the Generation in Flames. The former soldiers did not fit in well with the new society, and were then considered lost in how the new society of the '20s worked. Many retired soldiers were out of work because of their physical damage, psychological damage, or unwillingness to work. 9 million people died in World War I, so as a result, many of the men at war had seen excessive amounts of pointless death, and, in turn, lost faith in traditional values such as courage, patriotism, and masculinity. These lost, disabled soldiers then became aimless, reckless, focused on material wealth, and unable to believe in abstract ideals. In Reinhold Niebuhr's Leaves from the Notebook of a Tamed Cynic, it states, "The man is about 55 or 57, I should judge. He is going to have a desperate time securing employment after he gets well. These modern factories are not meant for old men." As factories and other workplaces were becoming more modern, the old veterans could not keep up. During the 1920s, many things were changing, including clothing styles, economic status, society as a whole, and politics. The nation's wealth practically doubled during the time period of the Lost Generation, but the Lost Generation directly refers to the many writers that came of age and began establishing their literary reputations during and after World War I. F. Scott Fitzgerald was one of these writers, and he is one of the most famous. His most famous works are The Great Gatsby and This Side of Paradise. A sentence from This Side of Paradise portrays the lost generation perfectly when it states, "All gods dead, all wars fought, and all faiths in men shaken." Another famous writer in this time period was a Red Cross worker during the war and the man that created the term, Ernest Hemingway, who wrote The Sun Also Rises. Literary works of the Lost Generation carried continuous themes of self-exile, indulgence, spiritual alienation, and idealized past. A great example of the theme of idealized past is shown in The Great Gatsby. Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eludes us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch our arms farther, and one fine morning. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. In this book, the main character longs for his past love to come back and tries to hide his sadness and loneliness with the illusion of grandeur and false happiness. Like Gatsby, a sense of moral loss and aimlessness was apparent in the many of the famous literary characters and retired soldiers as well. This time period's themes and character stereotypes are still used in many modern literary works and authors' writing styles.